We are on location. I'm at home.
Friday afternoon chill stream.
Yes, we didn't have a family meeting this week because we were traveling. We were gone for like 9 days.
It was
It is
long.
good to be home.
It was a
Yes,
long trip, but it was good.
it really was. It was really good. Super grateful. We'll give you a bit of update as to what we were doing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but it was good. You guys, where are y'all watching from? Who's here?
Let us know where
Hi,
they're watching.
Victoria Powell.
Victoria and
Laura Hartley. We'll see you in
Laura,
just a couple of days, Laura.
JN12, Elaine Voss. Yeah.
Yes.
So let's
JN12. I don't know that I've ever seen that handle
I don't know
before.
who JN12 is. I think that's new.
Maybe they just haven't written before. I don't know. But hey, what's up?
Okay. Right out of the gate, I just want to do a quick announcement before we get started. We've got some great things for you. We're going to talk about the Cracker Barrel thing. We're going to talk about the incident in Minneapolis, what's happening here in Southern California with the Temecula School Board, trying to make normal people have a mental illness. It's crazy town. So we're going to talk about all of that and share some perspectives. But before we get into it, we want to encourage everybody to check out the information about our upcoming conference. Maybe Monique, you can talk a little bit about what we're doing.
Yes, so we are having our first conference ever, where it's like ours. We are partnering with Birmingham Theological Seminary and Urban Hope Church in Birmingham, Alabama, to put on a conference that really looks at three key areas: work and poverty, marriage and family, and then social action. Now, notice I did not say social activism. I said social
Social
action,
change, I think, is what I
social
called it.
change. What,
Yes.
how do we as believers really step in to bring about responsible, biblical, Christ-centered social change?
Yeah.
Um, and so, yes, that's going to happen October 23rd to 25th. It will be at Urban Hope Church in Fairfield, Alabama, which is in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Just
Krista,
outside of Birmingham.
yeah,
It's there. So I'm going to put a link to the conference webpage in the chat so people can go check it out. But it's real simple. For the podcast, you just go to centerforbiblicalunity.com/conference and you can get all the information. The speakers are going to be Monique and Kevin, myself, and our friend Alton Hardy, who you may have seen on our small group curriculum videos. Also, Monique and Kevin did an off-code podcast with him a while back. So seating is very limited. So we do want to encourage you to make a plan, and it's going to be a great time. So if you're curious about matters related to justice and social justice, digging in deeper to try to learn more, this is going to be some really great conversations of basically all new talks.
Yep, it is. So make sure to check out the conference. And I was in the middle of saying something, but I don't now remember what I was saying. I was talking about social change, and what I think is going to be super important about the conference is that it's going to have a practical component to it. I'm sorry?
Get closer to your mic there.
What I think is important and going to be unique is the practical component to it, because Alton Hardy, Pastor Alton, is in Fairfield, and he is actually doing the work that we're going to be talking about. So it will look at some of that 30,000-foot view stuff, and like, what are some of the biblical principles about it? How does social justice and some of the contemporary critical theories come in and want to knock off the biblical component? But then when we get back to biblical basics and to doing evangelism, basically, is what a lot of Pastor Alton's work is. It's evangelism and leading people to Christ and to marriage and to work and things like that. What is the implication of that? How do you see lives change through that? I think too often we get so wrapped up in the idea that I have to go out and do social justice. I need to start another food pantry. I need to do this and do that. And instead, it's like, well, what would happen if you just shared the gospel and told somebody, you know what? If you don't work, you don't eat. I think there's a lot of power in that. And so a lot of Alton's work, while not as, crass as how I just said it, it is that. It is Jesus is the answer. And if you don't work, you don't eat. And family is important. And men, step up and raise your families and disciple your wives. And so that's what it is. I think it's going to be good. And I encourage all of you who are in the area and those who aren't, come on out and hang out with us on October 23rd, 25th.
I'm excited. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a lot of great talks. And it's really our first opportunity to have something that's totally CFBU focused. So
Jermaine Ellis is in the chat. Jermaine, you should totally drive up from Georgia. It's what, like a 3-hour drive? Don't play. You know it. You can just come on over. Scoot on over. I don't know if that's the 65, the 45, the 280. It's the something. And I know that y'all don't say the in front of your freeway numbers, but we do out
here. We do. It's the 5, the 10. You go up the 5, you go to the 210. Yeah.
Yay.
All right. So a couple days ago, as we were flying home, there was the big sad news in Minneapolis, as if Minneapolis doesn't already have like massive community trauma left from still the lingering effects of George Floyd and BLM. Then we had the shooter at the Catholic school with the kids. Really sad situation. There's a lot of angles that we could offer perspective on. There's one thing I want to get into, but before we do that, Monique, do you have any initial reactions or things you want to say about events there in Minneapolis?
Just that it's extremely sad. I originally didn't see this you're the one who told me about this. It didn't even come in my feed at all.
That's crazy.
I still haven't seen very much about it at all. Unless I've gone in and actually searched for it. But I think since it's happened, I've only seen one thing. Still only one thing in my feed about it.
It's everywhere in my feed. And again, that just shows how our feeds can be so different. That's crazy. And how you could just have this massive blind spot about what's happening in the world based on what your feed is showing you.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, I know that there was an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old who were killed while sitting in the pews. And
they were at mass. It was like the first day of school, and they were doing their first day of school mass. So
and it is, the grief and the heartache, for those parents. There was a picture I saw of a woman running toward the school, and she had her shoes in her hand, and the caption of it said, "Every mother was running with you." And my heart was just so broken for the parents who lost kids, the parents who had no clue what was happening with their children, the fear that the children experienced, and the teachers. It's just trauma all the way around.
So much community trauma in Minneapolis. It's so sad. Now, we have to talk about also the very hard component of this whole situation is the fact that the shooter, Robin Westman, I think his name is Robert, was a former student at this Catholic school. And he had a YouTube channel. He actually posted a video right before he went out to do the thing. And he possibly experienced depression, had some mental illness problems, but also, and I don't know if it says it in this article, yeah, is that he had that he's transgender, and his parents were fully affirming of his situation, his identity, and the whole thing is just raising a lot of public conversation about multiple issues. In that, one, the media at times has been hesitant to report when shooters are non-binary or transgender, um, and it's raising a lot of questions about is it healthy as a society that we are affirming this sort of delusion, and what does that create, and the number of, is anybody tracking the incidence of violence among, specifically, that is perpetuated by transgender people? Like, is anybody tracking those statistics? Is there something, a disparity worth looking at, that this is a mental condition and people don't want to have that conversation?
Yeah. You know, what it highlighted for me that I saw, I want to say, I think maybe when I was looking at it on X, is even, and I know people will disagree, I'm just going to say that now, but even how Christians think about mental health,
Yeah.
and what is considered mental health issues and what's not, but then also the idea of demons, because he had written and drawn this whole
Yeah.
thing about like him looking in a mirror and this demon was talking back to him, and there was this wording and like all of these
So I'm gonna
things.
actually show that on the screen here so that people
But
can see it. But go ahead.
um how do we speak about things that are demonic? How do we have that conversation?
Mhm.
I just think that it's something that as Christians we need to be wrestling with and tackling through as
Mhm.
well, not just well, this guy was on the left or this guy was transgender. I think there are
Yeah.
many things that go into this conversation that that we should be considering and figuring out, like, hey, what's my theology for this?
Yeah. And I think that this is such a sad picture from his quote unquote manifesto. There's a picture of him looking in the mirror, and what's looking back at him is clearly a demon. And in my opinion, it has the appearance of a demon. There's some Russian words uh, on the that people have speculated, like this is what the voices or the demons were telling him. I'm gonna scroll down here. That um, the the words were, who, when will this end? Help me. I don't want to. One statement on the left margin is almost like a whimper. One commenter, Will Spencer, posted, it says, help. Kill yourself, kill. We're getting totally demonetized for this whole video right now. And I think that this is, I really wanted to touch on this demonic component because this is a tougher angle. The news, the mainstream news isn't going to probably flash a lot of time on this issue, but this has been an ongoing concern that I have about this conversation that we're just not addressing, like, and that is the demonic component to the transformer community, as well as these whole shooters, and the enemy's desire for death. Like, there's a lot of demonic activity around death and the messages of death. And I I'm always hesitant to share aspects of my story because I don't want people to think of me in some sort of like heroic way, because I'm not. I'm just a regular person. But it is publicly out there. I was on a podcast where I shared my story, and I suffered for 3 decades with mental illness, and experienced a lot of death messages in my mind and harassment from demons, and it can ruin you. It's exhausting. And so as wicked as and heinous as the acts are that this young man committed, I have to say, like, there's a part of me that just feels sad for the demonic harassment that he must have been enduring. And but he gave himself over to it. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think the mental terror and pain, whether it's demonically caused, whether it's mental health issues, whatever, however you see that, I think people who struggle with that are definitely a lot of times misunderstood.
Yeah.
I think that people think that it's easier than it is to be able to say, well, just don't think about it, or just change your mind about something, and it's not always that easy. And I also feel sad that instead of getting him the help that he truly needed, his parents then participated in the delusion. And if he truly was,
well, not just his parents, doctors, therapists, like there's a whole cacophony.
But they participated in the demonic attack and the spiritual possession of his soul, in affirming that and continuing to go down that path. And I don't think that people, when we look at it from a spiritual component, don't always consider that side of it. Like, well, we just want people to love one another, and we just want people to be okay, and I don't want to hurt their feelings or things like that. But on the backside of that, spiritually, what are you participating in?
And when can we have the conversation about the demonic component and the shooter, the shooting component, the trans ideology, and all of that together? There's just this horrible swirling stew of tragedy and difficulty. And my heart just goes out in the situation, because the culture does not provide good answers for these things. Like, immediately, where politicians are going into the conversation about reworking gun laws and all of that, and that's fine, we can have that conversation, but we have to understand, like, there's people's souls, that the whole transformer question is part of people's souls are involved in that, and those answers are not completely just a really physical, medical issue. Like, there are spiritualish components to this. Our culture doesn't offer those answers.
Oh, you really broke up. Hope maybe it's just me. Hopefully.
Okay.
I think you're better now.
Okay.
Our culture doesn't offer those answers, and nor are they even, considering that as a possibility.
And Will, in his X post, Will Spencer was the one who I was showing the X post. He brought up a point that I've thought a lot about, and I would love to get a show together on this sometime. Is talking about the increase of the use of hallucinogenic drugs like ayahuasca, and people pursuing ayahuasca as a way or a means or a gateway into the spirit realm, and to having visions and dreams and all of that, and to seeing entities. And I don't know if this young man experimented with that or not, but there's a lot of people who are going down the ayahuasca path in order to try to see.
It's pretty easy to get, from what I understand.
Yeah, to seek wisdom and knowledge, and because they know that, like, the physical is not all that there is. Like, we are not living in the modernist framework anymore of atheism, and the physical is all that there is and all that there was and all that there ever will be, to loosely quote Carl Sagan. That they know that that's not the world that we live in, but ayahuasca can open gateways to the spirit realm that you will probably be communicating with some spirits. Now those spirits might be harming you. It's not the Holy Spirit. There's only one spirit that won't harm you, and that's the Holy Spirit. But I think that the difficulty is that Christians, in America in particular, we're not good at like having that public conversation about the demonic. And there's kind of these two sides of the ditch of like either the conversation about the demonic becomes so obsessive and extreme that it just becomes silly and nonsensical, or the other side is we don't talk about it hardly at all, as if it almost doesn't even exist. There really isn't much public conversation about this.
Yeah. And I do think that you're right. Like it is either one side or the other, which is what I appreciated about living in South Africa and traveling on the African continent, because it was talked about regularly and not in the extremes. Like it wasn't a demon behind every bush, or now I have to go out and cast out every day. It wasn't that. It wasn't this everything is demonic. And where I think here in some of the NAR stuff I've dabbled with and stuff like that, like you get this huge fascination with demons and talking to demons and communicating and it wasn't that. But there just was a reality of like the spiritual realm is real and spiritual warfare is real.
Yeah. And Monks, I agree with you. Let me put your comment on the screen that he had a choice in this. I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I had a choice to live every day. And when I was attacked and had all of those horrible death messages that I experienced in my life, I still had a choice every day. I had a choice to live, and I did. And thankfully the Lord healed me from that. But he absolutely had a choice, and you can give in to those messages and definitely have compassion toward the children and the families. I think we covered that at the top. I'm just saying, as a person who has lived through extreme difficulty with death thoughts, I can certainly appreciate and understand how that can happen. And so, all right.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to move on to the next thing.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So, kind of along these similar lines, this week in Temecula, which is sort of in our backyard-ish here in where we live, Riley Gaines, I think, was the first person who reported on this. Somebody sent her this, and then Libs of TikTok picked it up. And it apparently, because the school year is starting, there's a form that they're having students fill out for if you are a girl at the Temecula Valley Unified School District and you don't want boys in your restrooms or your changing areas on your teams, you have to fill out a mental health accommodation request. So the mental health problem is not the gender confused person. The mental health form must be filled out by the normal child that they need an accommodation. And the accommodation request says, I am requesting a mental health accommodation on behalf of my child. The parent fills this out. This request is made in accordance with federal and state laws. And they have some blanks there to describe the mental health condition and the nature of the accommodation requested. So I guess you're supposed to put down, my child doesn't want to be in changing areas with gender confused boys. This seems crazy to me. But then a couple of girls went to the Temecula Valley school board meeting.
Yeah. I wish I would have been there.
I know. We needed Monique there. Call us next time. And these poor girls, I just kept thinking, like, where are their parents? Like, why aren't their parents at this meeting? why are these, maybe they wanted to stand up and do this, I don't know, but I had questions. So these young girls, I mean, they sound like they're maybe in middle school, and they're just sort of begging the school board to reconsider their position. I mean, do you want me to play this clip? It's like less than a minute. All right, we can hear what in their own words.
Sorry, I muted my mic so I could drink my water. Don't want you to hear my...
Here we go.
And we're both 8th grade students at James L. Day Middle School.
This
year, we are both in a PE class with a biological male who is transitioning. We are young women and do not feel comfortable changing in front of a biological male. Everyone should feel comfortable and safe at school. Shouldn't be a thing. We should not have to claim we are mentally unstable or extremely religious to be accommodated for this reason. I ask you to rethink your decision and reevaluate this right now. Please rethink what you're doing. There has to be a better solution. There has to be something that is better than what this is stating right now. Thank you.
So there you go. I mean, that's rough. I feel bad for those kids because it's sending them a message that they're the problem.
Well, that's the goal.
Yeah. They're going to normalize the mental disorder and tell the kids that are wanting to conform to creation and their creation identity that they're the problem.
So we have to remember what it means to queer, to disrupt, to overturn.
Yeah, why don't you remind us about that?
Totally upend or denormalize, to destabilize, our society. And so this is what's happening. The normal person is now the problem. The person who wants to either A, live out their religious convictions, or B, just be a normal person, be a normal girl, without having a guy walk naked in front of them or them having to walk naked in front of a girl. Well, they then have to be the ones to change. They have to opt out. That's completely insane. And if you're okay with it and think that, the girls should have to opt out, I would probably say you're sick in the head. Like, let's just be honest. You're probably a little deranged, but that's just my opinion. Chris and I were talking about this earlier, and I said, this could be easily stopped. Don't let your child play sports. Pull them. Every girl who's playing on a sports, I don't care if it's softball, basketball, soccer, if there is one boy on a team, that one biological male on a team, I don't care what that team is, they should all band together in solidarity and be like, my kid isn't playing, my girl isn't playing. But because many of these girls will sign these opt-out forms or sign these I have a mental health form, conforming to culture, agreeing that that their child has a mental health problem, they will continue to do what they do. You need to stop. I would shut down. Let Mo rule the world. I would shut down every girl.
Well, I think what you're saying is that's what you would do if you were a parent, is you would just say, we're not participating in this system.
Let my kid play basketball and there's a male on the softball team. My kid wouldn't be playing basketball because we would be working together in solidarity. See, we don't always need to take cues from the culture. I'm not a big fan of that. But if you look, the culture is banding together against you. So you can't have Black Lives Matter without the queer movement. You don't get the queer movement without the disabled. You don't get the disabled without the fats. Like, this is what it is. And so band together and be like, no. You know how much money is in sports right now?
Yeah.
No, if there's a girl in a Temecula Unified School District sport and they need to fill out this form and you have a kid and y'all girls, my kid ain't playing. The next step that I would take is like, I'm gonna homeschool my child. And all the girls on all the sports teams, we're gonna pull our kids. Like, get drastic and tell people that you're not gonna accept this. But that's not what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen is that those kids are gonna fill out those mental health forms and they're gonna conform and agree with the culture. And then that's what you're gonna get. Like, you're gonna get more of the same.
Yeah, I think you have to make yourself a little ungovernable at that point. And because Otherwise, I mean, you get, I think one of the difficulties is that, and people might not see this, and I always struggle with how much to show our followers of what happens on X and where the cultural conversation is really going, because people are just trying to live their lives. They're just trying to, go to work and disciple their kids and homeschool their kids and do normal things. And I struggle sometimes with how much abnormality should we show people. But the truth is that there is a growing community of violent transformer people on X talking about coming after Christians and doing violence toward us. And there is a whole genre of videos right now on X of men dressed up as women, not real women, men dressed up as women, saying that they want to harm people like us, that want to stand publicly for the traditional family and stand for natural law, stand for the created order. And I think that, again, we're not tracking, to my knowledge, violent offenses committed by this member of this community. We have to be circumspect about affirming what it has historically been understood to be a mental disorder. And I just don't know any delicate way to say it. Like, my heart goes out to those people, but we have to be in reality about things.
Yeah, my heart goes out to them. And, even if it's not a mental health disorder, even if I was on board, you do you. At what point do I have the right to infringe my thoughts upon somebody else, to be like, well, hey, too bad for you, girl. You don't want to see a guy's genitals, but too bad for you. Like, we just get to do whatever we want to do. Like, I don't understand. Like, at what point do we just live by the fact that girls are girls and boys are boys, and as children, we're not open to allowing them to expose themselves to one another the same way we wouldn't expose ourselves to each other as adults? Like, we have, when do we talk about time and place? When do we talk about just respectability and what does it mean to be a respectable human? And how do we respect one another and their boundaries? Like, even if it wasn't a mental health disorder, like, should my son be walking around naked in a group full of girls? What does that do to him? How does that pervert his mind? But too many people are just, wanting to talk about, oh, well, we can make exceptions, opt out, blah, blah. Go somewhere. Go. Like, I have no time for you today, because it really is nonsensical. You sound like a pervert.
Well, and Tony is asking a really good question in the comments, is where do obscenity laws come into play here? You can't expose yourself on the street, but you can at school. That makes no sense.
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense. Because if we can start here and train children that there's nothing wrong with you seeing someone else's genitalia, well, then by the time you see it on the street, oh, well, that's just somebody's fill in the blank. It absolutely,
the desensitization of these things. Yeah. And if we can get to the kids at earlier and earlier ages, then they don't see it as being abnormal. They've just grown up in that world.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's not, if it wasn't a mental health disorder, if they were not violent, we still need to remain in our normal mental capacity and say girls are over here and boys are over there. And no, I don't want my 14-year-old daughter being exposed to male body parts, because as a Christian, I have certain ethical principles, biblical principles about when we arouse things within humans, not just within our youth. And so, no, this isn't about just violence or mental health or all these things. This is about, are you freaking out of your mind? Maybe you're the pervert if you want to continue to make excuses for why this is okay. And I say that to anybody who thinks that this is okay. That, well, if you want to sit here and make excuses for perversion, then you're probably a pervert. Let's be honest.
But I think that's the thing, is a lot of people have been so desensitized to the transformer issue that they don't think it's a perversion. They think it's normal. And they
because they've been desensitized to become
exactly
perverts.
Yeah.
They are perverts. And this is where I think Christianity and Christians have an awesome opportunity to help bring people back into a position of, hey, like, we don't have to be perverts. Hey, there's actually something else available. I know that you have drunk the Kool-Aid. I know that you have been doused in this worldview for so long, but there actually is something else available. But as long as we continue to run around and fill out the forms that say, yes, I have the mental health disorder, you continuing to lay in bed with the enemy. You can't.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to play a quick 1-minute message from Kevin, and then we're going to come back and talk about Cracker Barrel, because that's always fun to talk about the country folk. I'm going to put us in the green.
Hi, this is Kevin Briggins, Director for the Center for Biblical Unity, and we would like to invite all pastors and church leaders to a free webinar where we discuss how to lead your church through race and justice issues. One thing I've learned through my years in ministry is that these topics can be difficult in today's polarized culture and with various voices pulling congregants in many different directions. This is why we at the Center for Biblical Unity believe in equipping pastors to shepherd their flocks faithfully through these issues. We also believe it is important that we as Christians address race and justice from a biblical worldview. So join us September 9th as we discuss ways in which you can disciple your church on these issues while staying faithful to a biblical worldview. If this is something you believe is important, please register and also share it with someone else within your circles. Until then, grace and peace.
Okay. So Monique, maybe talk to us a little bit for a minute before we get into the Cracker Barrel of why are we doing this pastors webinar? Like, what is that about?
So it's about a couple of things. One, there are a lot of pastors who have never heard about the Center for Biblical Unity. And so we're just sharing, information about who we are as a ministry, but then two, helping pastors to think about, pastors and leaders in churches, how do you think about having conversations on race, on, things like school shootings, critical social theories, queerness? Like, how do we have those conversations? How do we encourage our communities to be bold? How do we, just have some of the harder conversations? Kevin is an elder at his church and has been an elder for quite a while. And so he just has a gentle and yet stern way of being like, hey, look, we're going to need some boldness. Yes, we can be gentle and we can be courageous. We don't have to leave gentleness behind in exchange for boldness. We can actually do both. And so this is just going to be a time to introduce people to CFBU and to really start some conversations that are needed about courage, boldness, gentleness, and, leading the flock well.
Yeah, that's good. So go check it out. If you missed the link, just go on our website at centerforbiblicalunity.com/events, and you'll see it there. So Okay, let's talk about Cracker Barrel. Boy, it was hard to keep up with this week. There was so much happening.
You know what? I feel like the way, and you know, and I don't take this to be racist, but the way that white folks stood up for the Cracker Barrel makes me feel like black people did Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben wrong. We didn't fight the good fight. Y'all was 10 toes down. Y'all said, nah, Uncle Herschel, not Uncle Herschel, not today, Satan. And look, Cracker Barrel then came on back around. Yes, yes. I'm so happy for y'all. Go ahead. I can't eat Cracker Barrel. They don't be having a lot of stuff for me.
Yeah, I do enjoy their pancakes.
Somebody else that to me
kind of
crispy. They're a little crispy on the edge.
Yeah, they're nice. They're nice. So it all kind of started when there was this little viral video that was going around of like the remodel of the Cracker Barrel, and you saw like how, because it's normally like kind of dark inside, and they got all this random antiques and stuff hanging on the wall, and so it looks like Cracker Barrel recruited Joanna Gaines, and they put some shiplap up and painted it white and organized everything, and people were like, no, that's not Cracker Barrel, that's not how it looks, that looks like it you know, the marketing people got Chip and Joanna Gaines to do an extreme makeover. Like, people weren't happy. Then so many people, now we didn't grow up in the South, so we only learned about Cracker Barrel from being on the road in the last few years. But a lot of people have memories of going to Cracker Barrel with their grandparents and sitting there, and they have these little table games with pegs that you sit there and play. And people have a lot of fond memories. And it's supposed to kind of capture country folk, of the country folk type of culture, and the country folk homey food and environment of antiques. And a lot of them have a hearth and a fireplace and all of this kind of vibe. And then they want to make it over and make it just look like, yeah, this very plain kind of a thing. People were they were mad. But then that kind of opened up a bigger conversation about Cracker Barrel in general. And Robbie Starbuck, who I've mentioned before on the family meeting, he really went after it, and he started looking into their DEI stuff and noticed that they were funding, quote unquote, all ages pride events, that they were supporting the human rights campaign, which is, we've done a whole episodes on that in the past, and the LGBT workplace advocate. I mean, he had a whole post here about all of the stuff that they sponsor and all that. So I'm just going to play like a 1-minute selection from his little clip. What?
Play it.
Yeah, let's do it. So it's just a little kind of snippet that he posted earlier this week.
Cheers, let me tell you, they call it, quote, bringing the front porch to Pride. And if you think that's out of alignment with their customers, well, you're right, but it doesn't end there. The Cracker Barrel website says that they believe that diversity and pride are pillars that should guide decision-making year-round. In fact, to uphold these values, Cracker Barrel also engaged with the HRC and the Out and Equal Advocates Workplace Conference. More on the HRC later, but let's dive into Out and Equal. For those who don't know, Out and Equal is an organization focused on forcing sexuality and transgenderism into the workplace. Cracker Barrel sponsored their conference and really went the extra mile by creating rocking chairs in every color of the LGBTQ+ pride flag.
Now, we should probably mention, for those who don't know about Cracker Barrel, one of their staples is they have these giant rocking chairs in front of all of their restaurants, and you can sit in them.
Interesting
stuff. And so the rocking chair is like one of their branding staples, if you will.
Did they get rid of the rocking chair with the redo, or did they just paint it?
No, this was just for this pride event.
Mm-hmm.
They were symbolically representing themselves with the rocking chairs, but then painting them in the pride colors.
rocking chairs in every color of the LGBTQ plus pride flag. This was part of a large DEI push at Cracker Barrel corporate in recent years. Cracker Barrel was so devoted to this DEI push before most even knew DEI was a thing that they were given an award by the Out and Equal Advocates for having 2018's top LGBT ERG group. Yes, Cracker Barrel has a special group for LGBTQ plus employees. Again, back in my day, a club about the sex you like to have at work would have been called sexual harassment, but now it's apparently empowering and virtuous if you make a club about it. That's
okay. So that's a little clip from Robbie's thing. And so, Robbie Starbuck is a superhero. I mean, he just really started doing the deep dive, and within hours, people, Cracker Barrel first walked back their logo change, and they were like, okay, just kidding. And because they were doing this like totally sterilized logo thing, and it just looked boring. And so, their logo is this older man with the barrel and everything. And they're like, no, it looks too much like whiteness. And then people were like, stop it, stop the sanitization. And so they walked all that back, and they wrote a little note on social media. We've heard you. Our new logo is going away. The old timer will remain. They knew that their customer base was fading fast.
Well, I mean, some people can call it sterilization. I just call it what it is, the erasure of white people. Like that's the goal. Like it started in 2020. It started before 2020. Let's be honest. It started before 2020, but because I moved home in 2018 and didn't really come into my right mind until like 19, I don't think I really paid a lot of attention to it. But yeah, like that's what it is. Let's get the white guy off. Like it doesn't sell. It's not, like I know, and I notice it everywhere. Like going down the jet bridge on Delta, like you got to have the girl who only has half an arm, or the gay couple, you got to get all the isms in to make sure that we have, all the theories represented. But I do think that there is, and I just heard a statistic today that there's been an increase in diversity on TV, and specifically related to Black people, of like 40%. And I think it's interesting to notice that while we've had conversations on representation and should representation matter and shouldn't representation matter, or whatever line you fall on, that there is a conversation where people are saying, yes, representation matters, but not this. We only want that representation. And I think people are tired of it. I think people are like, screw that. Like, you gonna represent all these things over here. Why not? Why do I have to be like left out? And so I just think it's opening up more conversations of, what does it mean for representation?
Well, I think there's also the cultural component, where I think that there's a certain segment of, I'm going to call it Southern culture, because I don't even think it's necessarily just white people. I think it's country folk people. They're just sick of being told they don't have a culture, or that it's okay to erase their culture. And they see Cracker Barrel as sort of an iconic representation of country folk culture. And they're sick of it. And so they're finally like pushing back, and they're like, it's more than a restaurant. It's the symbolism of, for them, what it represents. And like I said, so many people have fond memories. You see them on X of like, oh, I went there with my Mima and my Papa, and we went there every Sunday. And, these were fond childhood memories for people, and they associate it with family and Americana, and they just are sick of their culture being erased. And, I think that as an outsider, like, I'm not writing home about Cracker Barrel food. I like their pancakes, but I understand it's kind of like In-N-Out for us. Like, it's just an institution here in California, and you have all these fond memories of going there as a kid and eating there and your whole life. And an outsider comes to In-N-Out, and they're like, what's the big deal? It's 2 patties and cheese. I don't know what we're doing here, But for out here, it is an institution. If we felt like all of a sudden they were going to remake In-N-Out and totally have it look different, I think Californians would be a little upset about it. And because it's part of our culture with the palm trees, and it's a symbolic, iconic representation of our way of life. So,
I agree.
we getting?
There's audio issues. And
I
so
can,
I
can
let
hear
Laura.
you fine. Yeah,
I can hear you fine too. Okay, just close out and came back to every word. Okay.
I hear you fine. Yeah, it's weird.
It's fine. Okay. So I was texting Laura on the side to see if it was
Okay.
like one of us, both of us. I think it might be a YouTube or a restream issue.
Okay. Anyways, what I was saying is that, I just think that Cracker Barrel is just iconic of a larger idea of culture. And, but I thought it was interesting after Robbie Starbuck pushed back, they did delete their DEI page and all their pride stuff, but they just rebranded it on a new page called Belonging. And then Robbie Starbuck found that page.
Well, and I think many people don't understand that when Trump came in and was like, down with DEI, blah, 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 people did rebrand it to Belonging. Belonging has been part of the DEI framework for a long time. It's actually diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, DEIB. And I think people are now just really honing in on the belonging piece. And you can thank Brene Brown for a lot of that.
But I think that people have to be aware that just because Trump is saying a lot of things like, we got rid of wokeness, don't believe that. That's not true. That's not a thing.
No.
No.
Nor is he getting rid of DEI.
Yeah,
DEI is fewer people.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah. And then finally, though, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Robbie Starbuck made another announcement. He feels a little more confident that they're really going to take steps that they've heard from their customer base, and that they're going to get rid of more stuff, and they're going to stop sponsoring the pride parades. We'll see. We will see if it's real or not. But they're removing content, and they're focusing more on it, less on pride parades and more on addressing food insecurity, supporting community needs through food, and reducing waste. So we'll see. I wish that they would go back to more home cooking and less prefabricated cooking, because I've heard their food is not nearly as good as it used to be.
Oh, that's
they need
horrible.
to focus on just making the best food.
So here's I want to look at this in relation to the Temecula girls thing.
You're off center. I can only see.
I know, because I was leaning. My back hurt. I'm
okay.
Lean with it. Okay. Rock with it. No, I'm just playing. Now
you're going to the other side.
Look at what happened with Cracker Barrel.
Okay.
A bunch of people stood up and said, we ain't doing that. Not this year, not today. Satan, give me back Uncle Herschel. But I bet they're going to fill out them forms.
Mm.
It's the same principle. All you got to do is say no. No, we ain't filling out that form. No. And my kid ain't playing. So if you want my kid to play, we're going to go by these rules. We have to understand that there is, and I've said it since we started CFBU, there is power in your voice, your vote, and your dollar. What, the first day Cracker Barrel rolled out that thing, they lost what, $50 million or something like that?
Yeah. It just, the stock tanked.
Yeah. So stop playing the game. It's all a game. Stop playing the game. Stop allowing your kids to be the pawns in this game. Because now you have to fill out a form that's going to stay with your child for the rest of her school career that says she has a mental health disorder. So now what? She buck wild a little bit, getting a little attitude with her teacher. Well, Becky got that mental health disorder.
Well, and what a great way to
with my kid.
Identify kids from Christian families. I mean, all we got to wait for is another administration. And, we were talking to our friend Kelly Ski about data collection. We didn't really get into it. I want to do a whole show with her about data collection in public schools and kind of some of her theories about that. But.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm looking at the thing right now. I'm requesting mental health accommodation on behalf of my child. This request is made in accordance with federal and state laws, including Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and California Education Codes. So you are saying that your kid has a mental health condition that is on par with a disability? A need for rehabilitation. Okay, so now you've signed it, 504 in the Rehabilitation Act. It would be interesting to read the Rehabilitation Act, because does that mean that they want to send your kid to some kind of rehabilitation education training to help them get on board? Y'all, but people gonna run and they gonna sign it. The devil is a lie. I wish I had a kid so that somebody could ask me to fill out the form. You know the hell I'd raise. The hell I would raise over you asking me to consent in order for my child to be able to play on it. You won't play today, Becky, Brenda, Boniqua. You better sit down. We ain't playing. We are not. No, and no. I feel like we play too much. We allow people to play. They playing in your face. They playing in your face with your kid. To me, this right here, you can play in my face about a lot of things. You can't play with me in my face about my nephews. I wish you would. I wish you would. But here they go. Just gonna run and sign up. Well, Mom, I need to fill out my little form. My child would dare not bring that form to me. I wish. I wish one of my nephews would bring that form to their daddy. Yeah, no, but this is the thing. It's the little incremental shifts. It's the incremental takeovers. So now we're all used to, all of these transgender people in sports and stuff like that. And now, well, if you really don't like it, this has become so normalized that they are in your face telling you that you're the problem if you don't believe with it.
Yep.
If you don't rock with this, you the problem. You the one with the mental health disorder, not the guy who was born with testicles that's putting on a girl's thumb. But you the problem because you don't rock with it. Y'all, the devil is he real. He playing in your face. I wish. I gotta go find me a kid just so I can ask him to fill out the form. Because
you gotta get down to Temecula.
My nephews are one school district over.
I know.
I wish. Yeah, buddy. I need. Did somebody want to rent me a kid? Let me use it. I just want to use just so I can go to the school board hearing and then be like, I know y'all playing in our face.
Yeah,
right?
Temecula parents call Monique so she can come to the school board and do a public statement.
Is that the adults who are asking you to sign the paper know they playing in your face?
Yeah,
but you so brainwashed that you gonna just go along with it anyway. Let me go get my little form. You got a pen? I wish you would. The devil is a lie. Don't believe his lies. He a whole lie. And girl, we way over time. I gotta go.
Okay. All right. Tune in this weekend. We're going to be talking to Dr. Joe Rigney. There was a great tweet this week from our friend Allie Beth Stuckey. I think this was in response to the Minneapolis situation about empathy. And we're going to be doing the whole show about empathy this weekend. Her tweet was, it's not going to let me do it that way. Empathy becomes toxic when it leads you to affirm sin, validate lies, support destructive policies, in case you're wondering how we got here. And that's pretty good encapsulation of a lot of themes on today's show, is that don't buy into the lies. We will not live by lies.
We will not. But that show with old Pastor Joe, if I could have sat there for hours and talked about all things empathy related and why we choose empathy over biblical compassion or sympathy, y'all, and get the book, The Sin of Empathy, because he says some things. He says some things in that book that I had to ask. I was like, I can't believe you said it, because I'm not seeing many people with that kind of courage and boldness. And he completely affirms weeping with those who weep. Like, the book is not, I think what many people want to make it out to be of this thing of, well, it's just a book about how not to care. That isn't
be a lack of compassion.
Yeah, that's not it. But it sure is a thing about you better care how God instructs us to care. Otherwise, you might be caring from hell, people.
Well, I think it's interesting that so many people have misinterpreted or just reading superficially Allie Beth's project, her book Toxic Empathy, or Dr. Rigney's has a similar project on the sin of empathy, and just like they're twisting it and say, well, if Christianity is just about not being empathetic, then it's not for me, and it's like you're not understanding what's being said. But next week, I was wrong. Bob's texting me like every 5 seconds. He wants me to make sure to tell you. Thank you, Bob, for texting me. The Rigney conversation is not this Saturday. It's not tomorrow. It's
September
a week
6th.
from. It's a week from tomorrow while we're in Maven. We will see you at the Maven conference in Dallas, Texas. This week, tomorrow, there is no All the Things show. We are dark. We're going to have a day off. And we are, I don't know if there'll be a family meeting next week or not. Maybe it'll be Monique.
I think it'll be on Wednesday. And it'll be
because I'll be already in Texas, but we'll see. If we're going to have one, look for it on Wednesday. So
yeah. Elaine
all right,
says,
friends.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Elaine says they want conservatives to have mental documents for gun ownership in the future.
I've heard that, but I don't know. All right, we're going to address one Julian question. This is an easy answer. Mo, you think God sends people to hell for wrong doctrine?
What is your what is the doctrine that you're holding, friend? Here's the thing. God isn't sending anybody to hell. In my personal opinion and belief, I believe that we are all destined for hell. The way into
that's the default.
Hell is the default. Okay, like what a relationship with Christ does is spares you from the just judgment that was coming your way anyway. Heaven is the what you receive as, instead of hell. But it's not because I earned heaven. It's because of what Jesus did for me. God isn't up there sending people to hell. We have no right relationship with God outside of Jesus Christ. So hell is the default. And so when we are thinking about proper doctrine and all of that, our doctrine is important, but we have to understand first, you on your way to hell. Not you, Julian. I'm not saying you personally, but that's where I was on my way to hell. And as the Lord sought me, and as I allowed my heart to be, or I don't even want to say that I allowed my heart, because I'm really in a conversation with the Lord now of like, God, how much responsibility do I have in this? Like in you seeking me out and in my heart changing and obedience. Yes, I do think that we do have participation and obedience, but no, it's not about I'm going to hell for wrong doctrine. It's because I don't have a right relationship with the Lord. And that I was going to anyway. We have such a wrong understanding of who God is and who we are as humans. We are wicked. We are wicked. And it says that in Genesis, I want to say Genesis 9, maybe, that every inclination of our heart is wicked. And if every inclination of our heart is Genesis 6. If every inclination of my heart is wicked, then what I need is to be reconciled back to a holy God, which is what we see in 2 Corinthians. Those are Paul's words in 2 Corinthians 5. Spartan 300 says, does Krista ever listen to Monique? Heck no. No, I'm just playing. I don't know where the question's coming from, but I feel like
I don't either.
We have a reciprocal relationship if it's a genuine question.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good faith question or not. It's not enough context to know.
Yeah.
All right, friends. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us and stopping by. And hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thanks for coming in the room, y'all. We'll see you next week. Bye.